This session it's special. We'll be talking about the leaders of tomorrow. Not saying that the leaders of yesteryears didn't work hard or anything, but the leaders of today and the leaders who will lead this industry into the future on the global stage are a new breed, and they'll help shape the future of this sector. India is the third largest auto market in terms of units sold. We took the third spot, way behind US and China, but we'll get there. We already have a name on the global stage, but the question is, what's next? On that note, let's start this session. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, speakers, for being here as well. So, for the sake of this session, we have divided this into 3 parts, right? So that everyone can get the most value out of it. The first one will be the role of technology. No sector, no industry has been spared from the impact of technology, right? AI was the buzzword in 2023. The floodgates opened up with OpenAI, and it's still going on. The second part will be about the new breed of leaders. And the third one will be the next chapter. What's next for the Indian auto sector? EV is there on the table, of course, but what else? Hydrogen, ethanol, smart mobility, what? So let's start with Mr. Bajaj. The role of technology, how has it impacted the Indian auto sector? Your thoughts on this? Let's go.
So on the technology front, there have been quite a few developments with the push of EV being center point of the automobile OEMs. They are focusing on EV, futuristic cars, 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers. They are trying to integrate, but given the current generation, they are very much reliant on technology as well. I mean, we started off with, a geared car, and then things moved to an automatic car. Now things are getting, you don't even have to steer anymore. So we are very much technologically reliant on things, and people actually, the manufacturers, the OEMs, they're trying to obviously monetize on that part. That will actually, boost their sales, and it just looks more attractive. Technology is attractive. India is adaptive. India has the highest number of young guys out here compared to other countries. We don't import workers from outside of India. We have enough out there. But we are very acceptable to technology as well. We do like it. I like it. It's integrated pretty well, but obviously there are not as much as other developed countries, like let's talk about China or maybe US. They just have better accessibility. And accessibility is getting wider and wider day by day, and thus I think we'll reach there somehow. But the acceptance and the integration of technology in automobile and in other sectors, it's day by day increasing. So that works well for us, I believe.
Siddhartha, the role of technology, how has it impacted the sector? What changes have you seen? Your thoughts?
The role of technology in every sector and everything is, of course, deeply pervasive. But what I think we have the opportunity for in India is the philosophy of that particular technology. Today, if you look at most of the technologies out there, whether it's in artificial intelligence, semiconductors, or anything else, it's basically 2 sides of the same coin, American and Chinese. Both consume our data. In both of them, we are the end customer, we are the end product, and not the other way around. That's why you end up in places where you're paying 10 euros per month for a heated seat in a BMW, or you end up in a place where you're paying $20 extra per month in insurance because you drove your Tesla once at night and your insurance premium has shot up. So the granularity of extraction of value from customer is increasing, and it's very good for the companies, but it's in very poor taste for everyone else. And I think, and I believe, India is one of the few countries who can globally shape technology which is in the opposite direction of this. If you look at the ONDC market, if you look at UPI or the health system that is coming out, if you look at the nature of generic medicine in India, if you look at any of these sectors, those principles and that philosophy applied to AI will lead to an eventuality where AI is accessible to everyone in the world and owned by everyone in the world and not just a few companies. So I think it's upon us to build out technology steeped in those philosophies, and that will give access to 6 billion or 7 billion more people, not just the top 1 billion people, which is a huge, huge, huge opportunity in semiconductors and everything else. And I think we're in a good time to start and a good place to start on that, if not already started.
Sorry, just wanted to ask you something. Are you going to be using AI in all of your products? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, without AI, I don't think you can even sell a spoon today.
Well, we did. I mean, there was no AI long back, but would you want a chip in your car?
You already have chips in your car.
No, but you wouldn't want to be tracked, would you?
That's exactly my point. But every other car in the world today tracks you thoroughly.
It does.
So how do you change that? And that is the opportunity that India has.
But that's a negative point as well, isn't it? As more of a security breach. I mean, if it has a chip, it's hackable, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
Would you want that?
But everything does have a chip today.
Yeah.
Even the bulbs.
It's not connected to the internet.
No, most of them are. Like, you must have seen
You know what I
images
mean.
that...
We'll circle back to that. That's a very good point. Mr. Banerjee, your thoughts? We'll circle back to that.
Thank you, Deep. Look, I must preface this by saying that, as FlixBus, we are in the travel tech space, right? So this is perhaps the most important question for us. We are in the intercity bus space, which in a place like India is dominated by traditional players. It's a very fragmented landscape. So technology plays a very important role, both on the supply side and the demand side. I think on the supply side, it's very, very critical for tech enablement of the bus operators who operate in the private market. It's a very large market, as you know. However, the lack of tech actually has essentially kept this market fairly limited and restrained. What FlixBus we are doing in this space is essentially empowering our partners with network planning technology that helps them increase their efficiency in their network and their operations, right? That's one of the key areas where we play a role through our technology. The next area where we help our partners who are running private buses is in terms of data and analytics that helps them increase their load factor, thereby making their business more efficient, right? And then, of course, providing a technology layer with respect to, whoever's the driver on the bus, whoever's the staff on the bus, for them to be able to kind of check in customers properly and manage the day-to-day operations of the fleets in a better manner, right? So on the supply side, I think, these are the 2 or 3 top areas where technology has played a role specific to intercity buses. And on the demand side, by and large, the story is well known, but I'll just reiterate some of the, key takeaways that have come out from companies which do this in a similar space, right? Number one, customer delight, right? As you've seen with cab aggregators, etc. Increasingly, customers are used to being able to track where their vehicle is on a minute-to-minute basis. So that real-time, exposure to where your vehicle is takes away from that anxiety and stress related to any type of travel, both intra-city and intercity. Now, I think with FlixBus, customers are going to get access to that level of information on a real-time basis through our app, etc. as well. So that is a key element. Then the second one is in terms of understanding what is the exact pickup location, where to go, where to be, etc. Right? So besides punctuality, where to kind of go and meet your service providers, another area where tech plays a role in improving customer experience. And then finally, just from a business point of view and a D2C point of view, being able to book any type of ticket on an app sitting at home, increases accessibility. It brings new customers to the bus space as well. We think FlixBus is going to broaden the funnel for operators in India, and this is our 43rd market for that same reason, because we think that a lot of customers are going to trains and airplanes just by default, because the e-commerce space with respect to train and airplanes is much more evolved, right? So in terms of demand aggregation for intercity buses, we think that FlixBus can play an important role through technology. So those would be some of my initial thoughts.
Thanks. Mr. Kumar, finally to you. How do you think the impact of technology in the auto sector has been? Please.
First of all, thank you very much for having me here. This is the second time I'm speaking on this from this forum. See, technology is a part of evolution, and I believe that since the inception of the human era, technology has always been part. We have to understand something about technology is that like anything new which is meaningful, okay, we call it a technology. So once it get evolved, it has to be productionized, or it has to take some shape where the person or the people or the community can get benefited. Now, if we talk about the role of technology in the auto segment, I think my fellow panelists have pointed out very well that we have we have shifted from a manual shift cars to the automotive, and then now from the maybe you don't need to even shift the gears, and it's all like auto pilot mode, right? So this is what is the technology. But with technology, we should also not forget about the research and development part of it, which I think we should all emphasize, that we want to avail the technology. At the same time, as industry players, it's our responsibility to invest enough on evolving or developing some technology homegrown. So my take on this is that technology is first thing is that it has to be meaningful. Second is it has to be customized as per the need, like my fellow panelist from the FlixBuses has said that it has created helped you in demand side and also on the supply side. It is very, very important, right? So it has to be customized, or it has to be developed as per the ecosystem. Like two of you discuss whether it's a breach of our privacy or not. So there the customization and the control and restriction is important. My conclusion point is that it has to be useful, and it has to be meaningful for the masses to be adopted.
So Bajaj, you mentioned a very important thing, the flip side of technology.
Yeah.
Let's explore that a bit. What did you mean? Like, what are the flip sides of the new generation technologies that we are coming across?
No, so I do agree that there should be a proper implementation of technology, and it should be used for us because it's made by us, right? Although the accessibility of technology could differ from country to country, from industry to industry, and the implementation of that as well. Many factors, government, investments, your thought process, if you run a company, how's the CEO, and what is her thought is. But if we are talking about the flip side of it, obviously there are some dark sides of it as well. So as he rightfully mentioned that, there is a washing machine that sends 4 terabytes of data a day. That's the first time a month. Still a lot. I mean, what are they sending? Just profiling? So it's a lot of things can be used for you or against you as well. If it has an internet connection attached to it, if it has a comm system attached to it, a simple chip can actually access a lot of your data and your behavioral aspects as well. That could be a negative too, but if we actually have governance around it, if we have the right infra of the technology that we are delivering to the end customer, end user, the consumer, I think it makes a bit secure. But till the time it has internet connection and a small chip, I personally believe, because I'm really into technology, I've always been there throughout my life, I personally believe it's all exposed. So it's just going to be there. I really do not know what to do about it, but the government or the bigger bodies have to focus on that. It's new for us as well.
Right.
Yeah. So when we had lower form of technology, like let's talk about Windows 95, a small kid could hack it during that time. 15 years back, a kid could do it. Now the things have evolved in a better manner, But there are kids who are even sharper to hack it across, right? So that's something to look at. It's just not a part of the government or the whole ecosystem. It's consumers' part as well. You should know how to keep yourself secure. If you're talking about automobile, I personally wouldn't buy a car that is connected to internet. Although I am from EV ecosystem, I support it. I don't have an EV.
Okay.
For one of these reasons,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Banerjee has some
Yeah,
thoughts.
no, I just wanted to briefly add to that. Look, I think it's a very germane issue that my co-panelist has brought up. Data privacy, cyber security are extremely critical issues. Luckily, we have governments around the world, including here in India, which are trying to regulate this space in a way that doesn't stifle innovation, but at the same time protects consumers and users. Given the uniqueness of mobility space, right? Given what role automotives generally play in society, it is, I think, even more important for us to be extremely watchful of regulations and laws and compliance requirements in this space, and very much, abide by what is the evolving, regulatory landscape in this, right? However, one has to admit that computing, the next frontier of computing is going to be the car, right? The vehicle. I think laptops and mobile phones have reached a certain level of maturity in terms of the level of computerization and the level of software integration that has happened in these two devices. The next frontier has to be mobility, right?
Of course.
So with more technology, more innovation, more business, and so on, right? So striking the right balance between regulatory concerns and innovation is going to be key. And I think most of all, it will be important for companies to be very, very compliant and respectful of these emerging concerns.
Right. I see Mr. Bagri snatched the mic. He has some thoughts as well, but we have to keep it short because we have to move to the next segment.
I think it's too difficult problem area to keep it short, but I'll try to do that. I think what Jeet is saying, Mr. Banerjee is saying, about the governance structures and the regulations around certain things around privacy and data and consumer rights. Outside of Indian government, I don't think any other government does that properly. If you take a look at GDPR is a derivative of the biggest three lobbies in Brussels. Number one, Microsoft, number two, Google, number three, Facebook, and that keeps changing. So those are the three guys who determined GDPR, and that is the reason why no technology company has come out of Europe in the last 20 years, or since GDPR kicked in, I think 15 years now or something.
With the exception of Flix, I must say.
Yeah, I mean, there's BlaBlaCar, there's Flix, there are a few dating apps and all, but what I mean by technology company is like an American level technology company, whether we talk, like significant sized, I don't deny a size, but you know what I mean. So in fact, innovation and regulation is far behind innovation and the ways you can use data against entire populations. And I think except the intent of the Indian government, I don't see any other governance structure in the world doing it properly. Yeah, it's a major challenge.
Yes, absolutely. Well put. There is no escaping technology, and of course, we'll have to deal with the flip side. Moving on to the next segment of the session, the leaders of tomorrow, the new breed of leaders. Again, not to glorify it, Mahindra is Mahindra for a reason, Tata is Tata for a reason, Aisha, Force Motors, they are there for a reason. But the new breed of leaders are different mainly because they have the help of technology by their side. They grew with that technology, and their approach is different, a more hands-on approach, not getting afraid to get their hands dirty. Let's start again with Mr. Bajaj. Or you know what, no, we'll start with Mr. Kumar, yeah.
See, you have started a very interesting topic, or our discussion is moving, in this era. First, I would say that this is a era of startup. Okay, and you see that many first generation entrepreneurs, I can see a lot of people here, those who are first generation entrepreneurs, okay, I mean, no background of business, but they are still in the business, okay, so this is the era of startup. And once we talk startup and we try to, correlate, or you can say that compare with the previous generation things, okay, I don't think it's a right comparison. I mean, respect for them, but this is a different time, much faster, much well informed. Okay, where we can use much more, a role of technology, which has made our life very easy. So I would say that in this era, I would just take the topic to the thing that which way this generation, as this generation leader, I think we should contribute to the country, because first is that, as we all know, that our neighbor country was 10 trillion. Nowadays, you look at it, we are around 3.4 trillion, and our neighbor is already 17 or 18 trillion, right? So 5 times that time, I mean 10 years ago, and now also the 5 times, right? Forget about the US, which is the largest, kind of GDP, 17 to 25 trillion, right? So what is our role? We need to push it. How we can push it? Once is that, we have to be very, very agile. As I said that when we call it startup and agility are the, two faces of the same coin, okay? You have to be very adaptive, and especially in auto segment, if we talk, India holds, you rightly mentioned that, third position in the whole automobile sector. It could be much better. You see, we have produced around 26 million vehicles last year, mostly two-wheelers. I think 19 or some odd millions were two-wheeler. Okay. Now you see that what is the scope for us? Why the two-wheelers are much more, and the three-wheelers, four-wheelers are quite less. I think in the previous session, Mr. Anil Srivastava was also saying that we anticipated the adoption of four-wheeler, but it could not happen the way he wanted. Reason is very simple. You have to understand the country. This is a country of youth. 18 to 35 or 30 years population is the highest. Okay. Here they love technology, they love features, they love different kind of things they want to do, they want to know everything, right? So this is a rebel generation Z. We have to understand. So as a leader of this generation, we are trying to address these kind of challenges. So we already have, such challenges from our domestic customers. Okay. So this is what we face. We want to address them and satisfy them. This is my take on this point.
You had some thoughts on this, that,
you want me to use the exact words?
if you want to, but but yes, you had some very, some thoughts on this, that
No, I think,
this sounds more of a glorification.
No, the challenges remain the same. If you look at Changiz Khan and the invention of the composite bow, or if you look at the eras bygone, the challenges are similar. It's about expectation management, people management, understanding what is the need, where the world should be driven towards, where the world is being driven towards. It's a combination thereof, and of course the pace has increased significantly. The rate of increase and the rate of decline both have changed. Plateaus have finished to a large degree, and in India particularly as a country, we've got a great platform, second to almost, maybe the US has got such an equitable platform where absolutely anyone can enter the playing field and start to take up and do things and lead industries or societal changes or what have you. So I think it's a platformic change in the nature of civilization that we are in, more than us ourselves as individuals. So it's a very macro thing versus a micro thing. Micro challenges are almost similar throughout history, irrespective of the segment that you're trying to do stuff in.
No, I think I'd keep it brief. Look, I think what separates young leaders from others, or leaders of the previous generation, are limited to 2 or 3 main points, right? Number one is that now we have all become very aware of the need for sustainability, especially in auto mobility space. A lot of young leaders are either joining or wanting to, expand their existing portfolio of work in this space, driven by this motivation to create a future which is sustainable, and we want to align ourselves with the government's vision, for example, for decarbonization, which is the need of the day, right? And I'm not saying that there were not enough initiatives on this earlier. It's just that now it has become a much more central part of a lot of business strategy, right? In FlixBus, for example, we are highly motivated to promote collective transport. We don't see a future where passenger cars are part of the solution. So we are, if I speak on behalf of my team, extremely motivated to see that future where more and more customers move towards collective transport. And in a country like India, I don't have to reiterate the need for that, right? The second is finding ways to solve problems at scale. Again, that I think a lot of young people are now coming around to understanding as the only way to do business, that you have to solve for population scale challenges in this country, and you can't do that in a piecemeal manner where you're not collaborating with the next person, and you don't have that approach where you're kind of tapping into each other's expertise and tapping into your ecosystem partners, your suppliers, and so on and so forth. And again, I think in FlixBus we try to kind of focus on that model, right, where we are not working in silos, but we have partnerships with local operators, other service providers, and we work very closely with the ecosystem to kind of deliver a scalable model. And then finally, I think there is that ambition that my fellow panelists also pointed out too. It's just a fantastic time to do business in this country, and young people are very, very aware that this is the place to be. This is the time to get into entrepreneurship, and we see that all across the value chain within automotives as well. So I'll stop there.
Mr. Bajaj, speaking of challenges, what are the kind of challenges that the leaders of today in the auto sector are facing? If you could elaborate a bit on that.
There are quite a few. The whole ecosystem is developing right now. You talk about raw material of making an EV or a battery these days, because that's the most expensive component right now. You talk about recycling. You talk about other innovations. It's just in building up right now, at least for us. It's been building up for quite many years for other developed nations like China and the US and a few European parts as well. For us, it's new. I believe there are challenges coming in. Obviously, there is a lot of support coming in from the government as well. If you talk about FAME or other schemes that promotes the whole ecosystem, and the schemes that are focusing on recycling as well, because if you don't have lithium or if you don't have other precious metal over 10 years, what are you going to do? The industry is going to die out. There are innovations as well that are coming in, like we've been hearing probably about sodium batteries coming in, and maybe it's a couple of years down the line from now. But again, there's a whole bucket of issues right now. As per my personal experience, in this whole ecosystem of at least automobile and EV, which is combined now, there are people who are doing everything and anything right now, to be honest, because it's nothing bad there. It's just about acceptance. Maybe few startups are coming in, they're coming in with a new innovative solution. A lot of people are accepting it. Probably they're going to accept it later as well. A lot of people are not accepting it because they just don't like it. Simple as that. Talking as a consumer. But this is a time where you can actually innovate. But with that innovation, with just one thought, you can't be making astronomical things because of accessibility of raw materials, government policies, and the investments, which is very important for a new industry. Although the investments in past 23 years in India, specifically in in EV ecosystem, it's not more than 35 billion towards India. But in past 1 year, it's around 8 to 10 billion, which is the highest compared to all 23 years cumulatively. That is expected to be, going further and further in next 8 years. By 2030, the government is also forcing or implementing the whole idea of having 30% sales of EV cars in place with technology, and but it's all in process. So all of that. The government, the raw material, the know-hows of technologies, and the investments, I believe these are the main challenges. I would not comment on a leadership skill of anybody. They're all sort of people. So I wouldn't know how they're managing it. But even if it's a good leader, if you don't have all of these 4 things in place, you wouldn't be able to lead anything, right? So that's.
Mr. Kumar, you share a domain with Mr. Bajaj. You are from the EV space too. So same question, what are the challenges? If you could elaborate.
See, I would not say it as a challenge. I would say that, like every industry has 4 phases. You can know that. The time when the industry starts up, the time when the industry scales up, the time when the sales get started saturation, and once the time come when the industry or that particular product go for decline, right? So these are the 4 stages, and if we look very carefully towards the startup stage of EV in India, I think these were bound to happen, and these cannot be taken as, like kind of a challenge category, but this was, these were there, and this will be there not only with the EV. Any sort of new things coming or new technology coming, okay, that's what's perhaps it's called technology. Otherwise, it becomes commodity. Once they start getting into, like from startup phase to they get into the scale-up phase, okay, you will say that right now, there's a lot of non-standardization in the product, right? Once the industry starts scaling, you will see that a lot of standardization. And then once it goes towards the maturity, okay, you will see that the technology becomes commodity. That is why someone says that window now becomes a kind of a commodity, right? So my take on this is that, we have to work on all the front, starting from the research and development to making supply chain. I mean, who will produce the components, who will assemble the components, right? Who will sell the components, and who will service the component, and who will scrap the product, right? So this is what, every stage at startup phase, I think we are doing good as a ecosystem. Yes, for further scaling up, we need to address some of the challenges, which is, I think, with time it will happen.
Let's move on to the final segment, okay? The next chapter for the Indian auto sector. What's next? What are we looking forward to? So let's go around the panel and let's take your comments. Mr. Bajaj.
What is it going to be?
Yes, what is it going to be? What is the next chapter?
Well, there are a lot of promises by investors, by big companies, by governing bodies of this country as well. We're just looking forward to it. I mean, as I mentioned, that we are all trying to innovate. Like with me, with my company, we are trying to deliver energy to doorstep, as I mentioned before. And it's one of the things that we are doing. We all would want to grow further, right? The whole industry seems really promising. That's why there are investments coming in now. There are supports coming in now. The projections look good to us. And as a business owner or as a leader, I would just say of my own brand, I would just say that I would just want to grow further my own organization there. And I do see positivity there. So that's pretty much it. I don't know what's going to happen after 10 years anyway.
What drives you as a leader in this sector?
Money.
Okay.
It's a growing...
That's a valid point, yeah, sure.
It's a growing category. And I believe as a CEO of a company, that's the right way to do. If any sector is growing, just get into it, learn about it. I'm not an engineer, but I'm almost an engineer now. So that works, and that makes me money, simple.
I think we're at a very opportune moment in time where we can determine the future because the global industry is so nascent. Is this better? Yeah. I think we're at a very opportune moment in India because the global industry is so nascent relatively in the entire automotive industry with digital, AI, EVs, everything kind of coming together, or hydrogen in the future, where we can really build technologies for the 7 billion people, where we can really build AI solutions, data solutions, all kinds of solutions to allow control back to the end user, which is absolutely the opposite direction of what China and the US does. So we are at a significant moment in time. It's akin to Visa, MasterCard versus UPI right now. And we can really make the UPI for the world, for automotive, and not just automotive, AI overarching as a theme, because that is with full certainty the next bastion of computing. And computing and almost no product can be disassociated today. So we are at a very, very opportune moment in time. What we need is the capacity to take risks, not just in supply chains or technology development, R&D or finances, but risks as a nation. We are a little risk averse. A little bit of risk acceptance will allow us to capture this once in a moment opportunity to change the course of the world truly for the better, for more control of every citizen.
You made a very good point outside when we were talking that what is stopping Indian players from truly going to the global stage? we have the Tatas, we have, they're already trying to, but what's stopping them from actually going to the global stage and taking that piece of the cake?
It's a myriad of cultural questions, because if you look at any company in India, there are very few companies with any significant footprint outside of the country, whether it's Reliance, Tata, Adani, or whomsoever. Sure, some ports here, there, a few assets here or there. But, today Airtel is not in the US taking away their market share, or in the UK competing against Vodafone, and so on. So they might buy a few assets here or there, but no one is in those markets competing on the consumer front. I think the moment in time where China was in a similar situation was 2005 to 2010, and then Xiaomi came out. That's when Realme, Oppo, Vivo, all these guys came out, using that as the spearhead to kind of drive BYD and all other kinds of consumer acceptance inwards. So we are probably at that moment in time, and it's a mix of shift in culture and shift in targets, and instead of looking in a very insular way towards our country, which is a huge opportunity, of course, so rightfully you can compete in this country at scale, but also the margins in other businesses in other geographies is much higher. So maybe that can counterbalance each other, and it's a little bit of perspective shift and cultural shift that will allow us to be global citizens like we were before 600 years, and take control of the world again.
Mr. Banerjee, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, sure. So look, drivers for the next 10 years, right? The commercial opportunity is there. If I talk about just the bus market, India's $30 billion bus market growing at CAGR 10 to 13% every year, right? So that in itself is going to be a driver. But within that, right, if you look at, the number of people who are doing tickets online, the level of digitization that's being achieved in India across sectors, thanks in great part to the wonderful initiatives by the government of India under the Digital India program. That's the type of thing that motivates businesses to invest more and more in this country, right? So that's going to be an important driver. The second area that I've already touched upon is that we want to play a role in decarbonization and decongestion in this country, right? Collective transport is a solution for a problem that is really getting out of hand at this point in our country, right? So if in 10 years we are able to play a role in that, we'd be very proud of ourselves, and that's going to be a driver. And then finally, in terms of what the future looks like for mobility, right? If we are able to innovate something here in India that we can take to our markets around the world, if we are able to create that level of customer delight, which also I referred to earlier. For example, today there is no pan-India intercity bus network. There are players who operate in the southern region, in the northern region, and so on. But if you look at the disproportionate investment in road infrastructure today, you would wonder why are there already not enough businesses that are taking advantage of that to run buses from maybe Delhi to Bangalore. Is there a demand there? Can we draw customers into a product offering that they think is comparable to an airline? Right? Why is there no Air India or Indigo for private buses? So FlixBus wants to play a role in that, and that's one of the key drivers going forward.
Right. Finally, Mr. Kumar, to you.
My idea is very simple, that we belong to manufacturing sector, and as we see that in GDP contribution, okay, as long as the manufacturing starts contributing more, the export orientation cannot come to the country. You will only export the products what you are producing. You can't export by bringing product from outside and then you try to export, right? So my take on this is that like in next 10 years, with the kind of impetus what we have put on the manufacturing, I think component manufacturing, vehicle manufacturing, steel output, okay, these kind of things will improve. And once they improve, okay, we have enough for our people for domestic consumption as well as for the consumption for the world. Till that time, I don't foresee happening something very abruptly that our export is going to be immediately picking up, right? Especially in the manufacturing sector or the auto sector. That's my final take. Thank you.
All right then. I guess with that we wrap up this session. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for being a nice audience. Thank you, speakers.